Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about why disenchant shuffling is so good, how much money you can currently make with it, how to actually do it, give you a few tips to actually speed up the process, and lastly, I will be showing you a spreadsheet to calculate all of this for yourself. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy. Disenchant shuffling is one of my favorite shuffles in the game. I loved it in Shadowlands, and in Dragonflight it is just as good. So we're going to dive right into it. As always everybody, if you appreciate these videos, leaving a like or even subscribing would be amazing, but let's get into this video. Also, just a huge thank you to this community. There's been at least 5 different people who have DM'd me their disenchanting results without me even prompting them to, and I just want to say that did not go unnoticed. Thank you guys so much, and here we go. And so up first, I just want to describe what a disenchant shuffle actually is, and the requirements for it in Dragonflight. And so in terms of what this is, what you will be doing is purchasing raw materials off the auction house, crafting it into a piece of armor, in our case a cloth bracer. Then you will be disenchanting that item to get another set of raw materials, which of course in our case would be enchanting mats. So we are really just shuffling a set of raw materials into another set of raw materials. Now, of course, you guys are probably asking, okay, how much work does this actually require? Because a lot of Dragonflight shuffles do have an initial setup, and I can say you can confidently get this done in less than 45 minutes. I personally got it done in 30 minutes, but I'll walk you through that process. So the only requirements is that you will need a tailor. This can just be a simply leveled tailor. All you have to be able to do is craft bracers, which is one of the first recipes you get. So no knowledge points, no nothing special, just have yourself a tailor. The second and harder requirement is that you also need an enchanter. Now this enchanter will need the disenchanting spec maxed, which will cost you 50 knowledge points. Now you're probably saying to yourself, oh god, 50 knowledge points, but don't let that number scare you. Just a few days ago, I leveled up a brand new enchanter to see how long this would take, and it took me less than 30 minutes. You are able to get 24 knowledge points just from collecting treasures, and I was able to collect all treasures in 15 minutes, so that yielded me half of the required knowledge points. The second half, the other 25, technically 26, came from first craft bonuses. So as you level up your enchanter, because you have to level it anyways to gain access to specializations, if you craft all of the available recipes, you will gain 25 knowledge points. Now that's 24 plus 25, right? I'm missing one, and so that extra can come from either crafting a weapon writ, which I did not include in this total of first craft bonuses because they're a little bit more expensive, or you can talk to the profession master that's in the world and that'll get you another plus 5. So what I personally did is I got the 24 from treasures, and then I got 26 from first craft bonuses, but feel free to use that profession trainer as well. I will leave a link to all of that in the description, a leveling path as well as treasure locations if you guys need some extra help. So alright, you guys have your tailor, you have your enchanter, it doesn't matter if it's the same tune or 2 different tunes, and I want to show you exactly how this shuffle works. And so I thought this would be most effective if I show you exactly how I go about it, show you some tips to actually speed up the process, and then we'll dive into spreadsheet calculations. So I am on my tailor, and let's start this shuffle. So like I mentioned, we will need to buy materials to craft bracers, and this is the bracer you are going to be crafting. The Surveyor's Cloth Bands is super cheap, and it just cost 4 cloth and 4 spools. Now, of course, you can craft these spools yourself, but for simplicity, we are going to be buying everything.
2 centuries old.
So right now, Wilder cloth cost about 1 gold a piece. We can round that up to about 1.11 because that's where max is. And let's say we want to craft ourselves, let's just say we want to craft 300 bands, right? 300 times 4 is 112. Sorry, 1200, not 112, so that will cost us 1300 gold. Then we also need 1200 spools. Now in terms of which spools you buy, I would always recommend just the cheapest. In this case, it is quality 2. So yet again, we need another 1200, another about, 1400 gold. So looking at our total spent, we spent about, 2700 gold. And what this will allow us to do is produce 300. I had a little bit more in my bags, but we're going to produce 300 bands. So all you have to simply do is type in 300 or just simply hit craft all and hit create. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, oh goodness, this is going to take a very long time and my bags are going to get full. And when my bags are full, I'm going to stop crafting and this is just super annoying. So I have 2 tips for you. The first one is for speed, and so everybody's speed will differ based on their crafting percentage. Now of course you can increase this with profession tools, whatever, but what you really want to purchase is a potion. It is called the File of the Quick Hands, if I can spell, and it is super cheap. I mean, it's going to last you for 30 minutes, and it's going to cost you 78 gold. I already have some in my inventory, but once again, it's super cheap. And so immediately, right, we were looking at a total crafting time of about 13 minutes. If we drink this potion, we just gained 30% crafting speed, and now this is going to cost us 8 minutes. So of course, if you have, 52% speed or 60% speed or only just 30 flat out, your crafting time will differ, but I highly recommend purchasing these potions. And so right off the bat, we have kind of fixed our issue of, very long crafting times. Now, in terms of the mailing situation, we're going to use TSM. So if you guys haven't already, I highly recommend installing TSM because we're going to be using the mailing function. So what you will need to do is at least craft 1 bracer. Doesn't matter what type, just, have a bracer in your inventory of the ones that we're crafting, and you will want to create a group. You can name this whatever you like. I'll just name it bracer, and you'll want to make sure this is grouped by base item. Then under ungrouped, you will want to find the bands. It is here, right here, and you're going to add it to group. So there we go. We have the bands grouped as base item in our bracers. Next, you will want to make your way to operations, and you will want to override the mailing operation. Then add more operations and create a new one. Once again, you can rename this to whatever you like. I'll just call this mailing bracers to make it easier, and this is where you'll want to target your disenchanter. Now, if you have tailoring and enchanting on the same toon, that is okay. I would still target a random alt, so you can still mass produce while being away, and you can always hit return to go back to your main toon, which I'll show you in a little bit. So your target character should either be a random alt or your disenchanter. In this case, I have a disenchanter on a separate toon, so we're going to add in that right there, and then it's already grouped, so we're good to go. Now all we have to do is be near a mailbox. It doesn't have to be this mailbox, just any sort of one. Open up your tailoring menu, and then you'll want to queue. We have crafted already 7, so we need to craft 293, and just hit create. Then as we craft, you will want to go to groups, make sure bracer is highlighted, shift and hit send. Now we have officially enabled auto resend, and so every minute this will resend our crafted bracers. So basically our inventory will never get full. Now of course you're going to want some empty space because you have to, last a minute, but if we wait a second, if we wait a minute, it will send and continue to send to whatever character we targeted. This is great because now I can get up and leave my computer for 8 minutes and I won't have to worry about a full inventory or anything like that. So let's give it a second and it should auto resend. Boom, there we go. As you guys can see, it just triggered. It sent 33 bracers, they were all gone, and we are continuing to craft. So, like I said, I could leave for 8 minutes, I could have this queued for 40 minutes, as long as I don't get disconnected, I can fully AFK this process. So, let's just imagine we've crafted all of the bracers. I know we haven't, but let's transition over to the disenchanting side. Now, like I mentioned before, if you have the same toon, if your, tailorer is your disenchanter, all you have to do is go over to the alt that you sent the items to, click on it, and hit return, which is down here, and it will just send all of those bracers back. So, if you sent a ton, that's okay, just hit return and it will mail the bracers back. But in our case, this is our actual disenchanter. And so like I mentioned, you have exactly 50 points, spec'd 10 into Inside of the Blue, and 40 into Disenchantment. Super easy to get, and you just need to max that out. I don't have any additional maxed out anywhere. And so we have 46 bracers. We'll pick these all up, and actually we'll leave that for just a second to show you an additional tip, but you have two ways to disenchant these items. If you are a TSM, if you're a Trade Skill Master user, you can type in /TSM space destroy, and this little menu will come up. If you hit destroy next, it will proceed to disenchant all of the bracers in your inventory. Of course, you have to click for each one, but this is a way to do it. Now you're probably saying, okay, but I don't want to click. So you can go into your /TSM settings, go to settings, go to macros, and make sure you have destroying enabled. Select up and down any sort of modifier you want. I hold control and hit update. Once that's done, if I hit control and scroll my mouse wheel, it will actually start, destroying those items. So if you want to sit here and, scroll your mouse instead of clicking a button, that's the way to do it. Now, if you guys are a non-TSM user, you can actually create a macro. I have one right here. You'll just want to type in /cast disenchant /use and then the name of the bracers, which is Surveyor's Cloth Band, and you can move it to your taskbar. In this case, I have it bound to E, so every time I press E, it will disenchant. But you could have this bound to anything. It could be a scroll wheel, it could be a mouse button, it could be, the button 2, whatever you want, but this is two ways to do it. And so all you have to do is grab items. Keep in mind you can disenchant as you grab items out of your mail, and this is just the simple process. So all you have to do is craft bracers, disenchant them, and this is the long process. So you guys can imagine, unlike the bracers where it's fully AFK-able, you have to be here to disenchant because you have to click a button. Sadly, if we automated this in any sort of better way, that would be against TOS, so you do have to click one button per bracer. And so to give you some numbers, because you can't speed up the disenchanting process, it took me 14 minutes, a little less than 14 minutes, to disenchant 300 bracers. So that is not including the crafting time, but in general, it takes about 14 minutes to disenchant a group of 300. So this is the process, and now let's go into actually calculating profit. And so I have provided a spreadsheet for you guys. You can find this in the link in the description. All you have to do is go over here, click File, then you will want to make a copy so you guys can actually edit this yourselves, and you need to edit two things. The first one is the cost of spool. Remember, we bought it for, I believe it was about 1.3. We'll just leave that for our example, and then you will also need to change the price of Wilder Cloth. We spent an average of about 1.2, so it's updated for me, but feel free to change that to whatever your purchasing price is. Then you will also need to input the price of your enchanting materials. So make sure you input the price of chromatic dust. Right now they're selling for about 1.57 gold a piece, and also with vibrant shards, which is about 24 gold a piece, currently on the NA realm. Of course, a lot of this is going to change, especially when you see this video, so just make sure this is updated to the current prices. After that, you'll just need to go over to shuffling and find the disenchanting one right here. The price is the price per bracer, so using those inputted, material prices, it cost us about 10 gold to make a single bracer. Of course, if you had any additional tailoring stats, you could get this way cheaper, if you proc resourcefulness, but the spreadsheet isn't taking any of that into account. Then you have the amount of bracers you are actually crafting. We're going to ignore that for 1 second, and you have your expected results. So on average, every time you disenchant one band, you're going to get about 1.9 dust. Now that probably doesn't make sense, but if you are crafting in bulk, that is the average. Also with shards, it's going to give you 0.86 shards. Of course, that doesn't make sense if you're disenchanting a single item, but once again, you're doing this in bulk. Then over here, all we're saying is the total cost is how many bracers you're crafting. In this case, only one, so our total cost is 10. Then our value of the materials we're going to get back is about 24 gold, which is leaving us for profit. Once again, this doesn't really make sense if we're disenchanting one item, so let's change this to our average 300. So looking at this now, if we craft 300 and disenchant 300 bracers, we're going to get about 570 dust, about almost, 260 rounded up shards. It's going to cost us 3,000 gold, and our total value of materials is about 7,100. So what this is saying is if you just sell back the materials on the auction house, included with the auction house cut, you're going to make about 3,800 gold profit. Now, if you decide to just use the dust and shards to craft, enchants or whatever, you're making a profit about 4,100 because there's no auction house cut, because you're simply just using them. So that is this case right here if you plan to actually use them in crafting. If you're just selling them off the auction house, then it is at 3,800 right there. And so yeah, this is basically the shuffle. Now to give you guys my personal calculations, keep in mind this might be slightly different based on your crafting speed of bracers, but to craft a bulk craft of 300 bracers, it took me 8 minutes and 18 seconds. So that is at my crafting speed was, I believe it was about 53%. With the potion, that is a average crafting time of about 8 minutes and 18 seconds. Then, like I mentioned before, it took me about 14 minutes to disenchant 300 bracers. So 8 minutes plus 14, it took me about 22 minutes to get through all of that. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, oh goodness, 22 minutes, but remember only about 14 minutes of that was actually me doing something. I was able to walk away for 8 minutes and not worry about anything, and you'll be able to do that too. But in total, that was about 20 minutes of work. So if we do that, on an hourly basis, 20 minutes, you can do 3 of those sessions in 1 hour. So you can craft about and disenchant about 900 bracers an hour. So with all of the current prices and everything like that, I'll be making about 12,000 gold per hour. Now, of course, like I said, half of that time is strictly AFK, half of that time is semi-AFK, but this is just a simple way to make some extra gold. So if you guys have been struggling at all, this is a pretty simple way to make gold. Keep in mind this is a shuffle, this is not meant to get you millions rich, but of course it could make you millions if you have enough time dedicated to it. But everybody, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I know this is a super popular shuffle, it has always been, so if you guys have been doing it, feel free to leave your success down below, and let me know if you guys are interested in this. Let me know how it goes, and as always everybody, have a great day.